Alright guys, I'm in a duty-free shop and I'm going to tell you my top 10 duty-free fragrances for 2019. Welcome back to J-ROYL everyone, my name is James, and sometimes you find yourself at a duty-free store. And what does that mean? That means it's time to spend some money. But not too much money because, you don't pay tax at duty-free stores, which is the whole point of buying duty-free. And I picked 10 fragrances that I would recommend you get when you're out duty-free shopping. Now, of course, at the time of this video, it's fairly early on in 2019. A lot of fragrances are going to get released later on. But my general rule of thumb with duty-free is it's a good idea to get the newer fragrances because they're not going to be discounted until later on. So new releases in general at duty-free stores are a pretty good buy, in my opinion. So at this particular duty-free store, I have 10 fragrances that I would recommend, and some of which I've talked about before, some I haven't. The number 10 one would be Lacoste L'Homme. Lacoste L'Homme is a fragrance that I personally don't own, but I do like. And a large part of the reason I don't own it is because it's kind of hard for me to find. But at a duty-free store, it is available. It's a woody spicy, it has some orange and ginger off the top, which is great because that means it's fresh, but it's still masculine and a little bit seductive, if you know what I mean. Stupid. Lacoste, you wouldn't necessarily think to be a premier designer brand, but they make some great fragrances. And unlike some of the other Lacoste fragrances that have the colored bottles, this one performs pretty well on my skin. So I would recommend this as my number 10 duty-free fragrance, L'Homme. My number 9 duty-free fragrance on this list is Dolce & Gabbana The One Gray. So if you look this up on Fragrantica and saw the score, it doesn't necessarily have the greatest score, but I blame the fragrance trolls out there that just poop on stuff that they don't know a lot about. Sorry, not sorry. The One is one of the most sexy men's fragrances that has been released. But a big problem is the fact that it doesn't really perform a ton, which means if you spray this on at the beginning of the day, by the end of the day, it kind of disappears. The One Gray has pretty good performance on my skin, but what makes it interesting is it's an updated version of the original The One. Although ambroxan isn't one of the notes in here, I do find that it suits the name Gray. I mean, you have some cardamom, there's some spiciness, there is some lemon, so there is some added freshness. This completely replaces the original The One, the Eau de Toilette, because it's light, it's very summery, but it's a little more contemporary. The Eau de Parfum, The One, kind of lives on its own. It's a little heavier, a little bit richer, but this one has been a lot of fun for me to wear, and I do recommend it at number 9. Everybody. My number 8 duty-free fragrance suggestion by Catalina Herrera is 212 VIP Men. This is a fragrance that is really sweet, really fun. VIP means you're in the VIP booth at the club, popping bottles at a 400% markup, spending all kinds of money, but you smell good. It performs really well, it's really sweet. It's in that category of fragrances with, your Invictus, your 1 Million, your Versace Eros, but it just does things a little bit differently. And I like it because the bottle is very sleek. It is available at nearly every duty-free that I've been to, but if you're looking for something very likable and performs very well in a clubbing environment, 212 VIP is my number 8. At number 7 for duty-free fragrances is Nuit by Issey Miyake. I'm a huge fan of the Issey Miyake house for men. L'Odyssée, the original, was really, really popular, 10, 15 years ago, and I love it because it was one of the first designer fragrances I ever purchased. The Nuit line does things quite differently. It uses incense, it's smoky, it has leather, but it still has that DNA that's in the original Issey Miyake line. Although Nuit is great, the Eau de Toilette and the Eau de Parfum, at duty-free shops, check out for the flankers of this line because, just like I said earlier on in the video, the new releases are going to hit duty-frees first, typically, and there are a lot of fragrances that I've only seen at duty-frees. I can't find them online, but from this line, there's a ton, and I'll just put them on the screen right now so you can kind of see them. Nuit, really great stuff. Very masculine, excellent for the nighttime, but also for the daytime when it's cold outside, especially those disastrous, frigid Canadian winters. I'm really glad I'm in Australia right now. But anyway, number 7, Nuit. At number 6, we have Bulgari Aqua par Homme Marine. You guys know I'm a big fan of the Aqua line. Marine is one of the fragrances that doesn't necessarily appear everywhere. Like, I don't really see this in department stores, which is really, really important because duty-free stores tend to have it, either in the full-size bottle or some of the smaller travel collections. Marine is really great because it's probably the most similar to the original Aqua par Homme, but it has a really amped up sea saltiness, which makes it really, really nice in the warm weather. Because when your skin heats up, your fragrance tends to sweeten up a little bit, and it becomes a bit too hard to handle. But the saltiness in here really balances it out very, very nicely. I find it performs really well in the warm weather too. So Sophie, what do you think of Aquamarine?
Oh, I really love this one. I think it's so nice and fresh, like for the day. Like when you're out and about, it reminds me of summer. Yeah. Big time. I think I have some memory or something. But it's such a nice perfume, and it's really unique.
It is.
It's not the same as Sauvage or Versace that you smell all the time. It is actually, it's quite distinguished. Like somebody chooses this on purpose.
Yeah.
And that's what I really, really like about it.
If you do also find Aqua Amara at the duty-free stores, I would maybe recommend it because it is discontinued as far as I know, and it's really hard to find. I got sick of it, so I personally don't wear it anymore, but a lot of people do love it. But for me, my tastes, which is, you know, what you guys are here for, to hear my take, my opinion, my number 6 is Marine. My number 5 suggestion is Platinum Egoiste by Chanel. Platinum Egoiste is one of my top recommendations for gift ideas for the more mature man. I bought this for my dad. I suggested my girlfriend buy it for her dad, but that doesn't mean it's just for an older dude. It's just a wonderful, classic contemporary fragrance. It's kind of in the middle, where when it came out it was very, very modern, but it does have that classic appeal to it, and it performs like a monster. Another big thing that I will be talking about a lot in this video is the House of Chanel never gets discounted, ever. Its supply chain is so restricted, so you won't see it on the gray market websites. That's why when you're at a duty-free, Chanel is going to be my top recommendation, period. But again, for the more mature man, the more sophisticated dude, number 5, one of my favorites, Platinum Egoiste. Number 4 on this duty-free list, La Nuit de l'Homme. I'm not going to talk too much about this one. The only reason I recommend La Nuit is because if you manage to find an older batch, if you check the little code on the bottom and do some research, you could get very lucky, because I do find at duty-free stores sometimes they have this stock that's a bit older with this particular fragrance, and it does smell quite different than the modern formulation, which is a little more transparent. Not always a bad thing, but La Nuit is my ultimate date fragrance. It's so nice. It gets a lot of talk on the internet, but for good reason. I mean, I can't stress that enough. This one comes with a caveat. Make sure you get an older variation. It's a bit of a lottery, but if you can find it, you hit the jackpot, dude. Number 4, La Nuit de l'Homme. My number 3 recommendation will be a line of fragrances, the DIOR Homme line. So this goes for pretty much all of them. I picked these 2 in particular because we have DIOR Homme Encens, which isn't readily available, even though it's, again, one of those amazing cold weather fragrances, lovely iris, some chocolatiness, a little bit of leather, just a wonderful modern contemporary fragrance that isn't for a butch guy. If you're a lumberjack, probably not a great choice. You know, if you work in a mechanic's shop, you may get teased. But you know what? Screw those people making fun of you. What do they know about fine perfumery? Right? But I would say in general, for the typical average guy, DIOR Homme Sport is a really good choice. Still is very unique with its use of iris. In the 2012 formulation, which I have here, it is a little more metrosexual, but the current formulation, they removed the iris, and now there's more of a blood orange accord. Compliment getting fragrance. Not an amazing, immense performer on my skin, but I highly recommend it either way. DIOR fragrances, kind of like Chanel, they don't get discounted a ton. and duty-free places are a great place to get a great price. So number 3, the DIOR Homme line. My number 2 suggestion at duty-free shops is Bleu de Chanel. Kind of recommending the whole line because you sort of pick your poison, guys. If you like a little more citrus, if you like something more fresh, go EDT. If you want something brand new, the parfum concentration is great. It's more rich, it's darker, it's not a loud fragrance, so it's kind of perfect for the office. It's masculine, you're not going to offend a ton of people. It's just not something that I would recommend for like a club or areas that you really want to push out. The parfum is the newest, so it's the least likely to be discounted. It's the least likely you'll find in the gray market websites or wherever else you get fragrances. But as many of you may know, the Eau de Parfum is my personal favorite because it sort of is in the middle. Really is best of both worlds on my skin. I'm a 30-year-old dude, so I like to think I'm young, but I'm totally not. So this is great for me. Kind of a boring choice, but it's still one of my top choices. Bleu de Chanel at number 2. And my number 1 recommendation at the duty free is my boy, ALLURE Homme Edition Blanche. This one gets the top spot for me simply because it's a Chanel, so just like the other Chanels, you won't really get a better price than at a duty-free store. But secondly, this guy is getting harder and harder to find. Whether it's the Eau de Toilette concentrate version or the current Eau de Parfum one, they're both the same, by the way. This fragrance is a real gem because what it does, it's so unique. It has that creamy vanilla, it has that lemon blast, that lemon meringue pie type of feel that is pretty unique to fragrances. It smells delicious, but still has wonderful freshness to it. We all talk about it, but it's an amazing fragrance, and if you don't have a bottle, you should really find one. I would even say blind buy it, because you know what? YOLO. You only YOLO once, and you're out of money. So my number 1 choice on this list, ALLURE Homme Edition Blanche by Chanel. What's your take on this fragrance, Sophie?
I think it's definitely one of my favorites. I like things that make me notice. You know, especially as somebody that works in fragrances. I smell a lot. I smell the same thing every day. People ask me for the same thing every day. So I really love this. It's present, but it's not overpowering. You know, I think there's lots of fragrances on the market that you smell before the person's walked into the room. It's got different layers. Like you said, it's got like that unique kind of creaminess to it. But then it's got that kind of masculine tone to it as well. Yeah. And it's a very nice fragrance.
Yeah.
I would definitely recommend.
And if Sophie recommends it, that's way better than me recommending it. Because you're not trying to impress people like me. I mean, some of you are. Approximately 10% of you are. Awesome. But, you know, there's a lot of people that they're tired of me. ALLURE Homme Edition Blanche is top level, top tier, top shelf. Not this shelf, but, you know, figuratively speaking. If you haven't seen the videos I did with Sophie before, they'll be down in the description below. So please check out the do's and do nots of fragrances with Sophie. So there you have it, guys. These are 10 fragrances that I picked out from this particular duty-free store. Some of which I talked a lot about, but I try to introduce fragrances that I don't talk about a whole lot because I'm trying to encourage you guys to just try things, you know? The main thing is get your nose on as many fragrances as you can, build your own taste. This is just one guy's opinion, my opinion. And I appreciate that you care about my opinion, but you should really get your own opinion. If you have any suggestions on your favorite duty-free fragrances, let me know in the comments below. And if you want to see more fragrance videos, I got a bunch on the screen for you and a little subscribe button as well. Thanks for watching as usual, and goodbye.